Oh, hi, Colleen. All right.
Hello.
Hello. I'll go ahead and share our agenda. All righty. Well, I will ask today that you participate as much as you can, please, because we've got a little bit of it's not light, but a little bit of a light agenda. And also we are working through hopefully identifying a new chair for this committee. And perhaps that's someone that's currently on this call, or perhaps it's someone else. And that's fine too. But until we have a new chair, we will just have a conversation and talk through this together. And I'll do my best to help lead us along. Before we get started on some of the items that I thought would be a good idea for us to talk about today, is there anything, any pressing business, maybe Vic or anyone else, that you'd like to add right away, or anything you want to make sure that we discuss today?
I have something. Heidi, I was looking over the template.
Okay.
And there's a website link, and it's linking to the evaluation committee rather than the communication committee.
You were looking at the link that I've got in the agenda?
Well, it's in the template.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, you sent out 2 documents in the email.
Yep.
That was probably just to give an example of where you would put the link for the committee, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I have our
got it.
actual in progress summary. So, and I did not help anyone out by sending it to Heidi ahead of time.
Okay.
So I have that, Vic, and we can pull that up because that's, I think, primarily what the agenda is just kind of talking through progress on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elena, do you want to, do you have it handy? Do you want to share it? I can make you a co-host.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's always good to work with the latest documents.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, am I sharing? It is different than normal. Okay, we use Google Meets for everything, so I feel like I am a noob on Zoom. So, okay. Here is what we have so far for our guide. And I know that sometime in the fall, we did go over the first 2 areas of just these mission statement goals and the member expectations as a committee. So that had at least so far been kind of group approved. And the in-work components still were on the second page, getting into the more content piece of our guide. So I recently kind of just tried to write it more in that guide format. We had some bullet points we talked about on a call again last fall in these categories, just kind of breaking it down, since we are a kind of broad committee in terms of we have a lot of areas that we're kind of focusing in on that have a lot of overlap but are still unique to each title. So we just went with communications, sustainability, and then partnerships separately. And then I'll go back in. And if anybody wants to read through what that looked like, what we have so far, really just looking through the broad pieces of communication that the committee is kind of set up to help with. and then some bullet points on different areas that is going to lead into in a lot of our conversations and our meetings, between just supporting individual sites, supporting between committees, which we've talked about in the past, and how we want to kind of keep in touch with what's going on those other committee calls, even when we aren't able to have somebody from our maybe site represent on every call. And then talking to our parents, our partners, and then kind of seeing what has worked for people and just sharing and collaborating on a lot of those resources. So that is what I have for our kind of goals and intent on communication. Is there any feedback or thoughts on that, or any just like, I know you probably aren't reading the whole thing. It's not like the easiest to read probably, but just as what I kind of shared, is there anything that comes to mind for anybody that you think would be important to note in that category?
Elena, keep making it bigger if you can.
Okay,
That was helping.
Okay, I usually see it on the, like, as if I was you too, because I'm just, okay.
That's much better. Thank you.
One area at a time.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, so if anybody has any thoughts or things on communication that we think I can add in, I'll send this out afterwards too for the group to kind of look at, so you don't have to have anything in this moment. We'll kind of just go through it and see what is here for now. And yeah, I'll take any feedback. So I'll scroll down to the sustainability part. I think it's just this short paragraph here. And really just mentions that, again, sharing resources between all of us in this committee, and looking for ways to continually lower our program costs and look for different ways to sustain our programs with that reduced funding, which is inevitable in our programs. And then through doing that, we want to just, again, be looking for free resources that have been successful in our sites. And then specifically looking at areas of concern that are going to be unique to every site, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter most, is kind of catering to what our current needs are, and what people have seen as a concern versus what's worked really well for them. We just want to share up-to-date information about how to leverage different ways to keep those programs afloat with the different variables of funding.
This looks good.
Okay, thanks. And then I'll just go through the last part we have so far, which is just partnerships. Again, a lot of that information it's similar across the board. It's all communication, it's all intertwined, which is why we are a committee of all of these topics. But just looking to provide resources that are going to help us locate different partnerships, look for ways to retain those partners and show that appreciation and gratitude. And possibly, then later on, maybe you need to make that ask for more in-kind donations or support from them. So we want to make sure that we have grown and fostered really good relationships with partners throughout our time with them in order to leverage more out of them later. So some bullets are, we talked about building some different kit resources about recruiting, maintaining, and compensating our partners. And then we've also talked about just kind of sharing and creating different information on how we've done appreciation for our partners, how we've organized resources, what kind of templates we might have on hand to either use to recruit them or to share the highlights of what they've been able to offer to our programs. And then talking about volunteer recruitment and where we do that and how we might retain our volunteers as another component of partnerships. So that's where we're at so far. I don't have any follow-up parts if we were going to have another paragraph possibly to talk through anything. I also don't really know how lengthy we want these to be. So Vic or Heidi, you might be able to weigh in on what other committees are doing and where this might stand between other committees, because I know everyone's been kind of working on these and we haven't all been able to share across with what everyone's end formats look like.
Elena, can you go back up to sustainability?
I sure can.
I was thinking that here we could add DHS childcare funding as a source of financial sustainability, because they cover up to 6th grade. And in addition to that, there's food and nutrition funding, and they have separate funding streams for after-school snack and after-school full meals. And that also, lowers the cost of operations. Plus, there's no conflict. You can have DHS childcare funding and 21st century. The only thing is then you've got, the extra set of rules, but when you get so many education credits, you actually get an increase from DHS childcare funding. And the Iowa After School Alliance is going to be creating a website that we can link on here about how to apply for the DHS funding and the food and nutrition.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great piece of information to include here. So I will, I have some bullets of what you just told me, and I'll work on, after I get off this call, adding those pieces to this as a focus of sustainability.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Beck.
Mhm.
Elena, I think this looks great as well. And as far as your question about what other committees are doing, I think that this document that you're sharing here could be a template that other committees could use to organize their work as well. And then we could put together, the full picture of committee work. So I think depending on which committee we're talking about, they're farther along in that journey or not. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, that again was kind of our main thing. I know our last meeting was pre-holiday and I think got cut short too. I think I had technical issues actually, so I think it was my fault last time. But so this was really all I planned on sharing as an update and just a progress report of where this guide is sitting. So I don't know if anybody has, or if we have any topics you want to shift into, any conversation on kind of current needs or thoughts on these things that are within here, but not on what we're working on. And I know within this guide and through some of the brainstorm sessions, we've came up with some great ideas for different resources to start working on. So I don't know if there's any committee input or thoughts on what could be a good area to kind of start shifting into as a focus for the rest of the year. If that is working through templates, working through a certain category, I'm pretty open to whatever the group's needs are. I know I haven't been able to quite commit time to that yet this year, which is partly why I'm looking for someone to at least co-chair with me to kind of share some of these.
So Elena, you're open to continuing your role if you had maybe some support.
Yeah, if there was a coach
Okay.
to step in, I think that would be, I just don't want to feel like I'm not doing an adequate job being able to commit the time. And since I stepped into a new role this year, it's been time consuming in all the good ways. But I just think that this committee could grow a little bit more if I had a little more support on this end. So if anyone's interested in co-chairing, that would really just look like sharing the role of these meetings, which really is not very frequent, and just sharing the conversation piece of leading these. And then some of these organizational, building up templates and looking through some of the ideas we had as a group, kind of taking a lead on some of those components. I would be more than happy to share that with somebody if they want to join in on the fun.
Great. Well, let's take a minute for that conversation then. Is there anyone on the call now that would be interested in co-chairing with Elena, or anyone that would like to maybe refer us to someone that we could reach out to within your organization? Maybe someone that's looking for a little bit of extra leadership experience, a little extra responsibility that might enjoy this.
And Heidi, I want you to stop sharing my screen, just so you know, if you want the agenda back up. I know that both are short and sweet, so either's probably fine.
Well, since no one is volunteering, maybe I should volunteer someone.
Oh gosh.
I think Katie Boatwright would be a good candidate to co-chair because she's from a rural area. Plus, you know, this would be, I think, good for her to get a better sense of, you know, one of the main areas of this grant.
My only reason to say maybe not is that this is the last year of our grant, and if we do not get a grant renewal, then I will only be on for a couple months.
Well, you never know. You put in an application, you could have another 5 years.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to, I would hate to commit to something right now and you only get me until May.
That's okay. That, you know, go ahead and, you know, try this out. I think that it would be good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Elena, is there, I had some questions up here on the agenda. I don't know how pertinent they are to this conversation, but do you feel like we are ready to put some time frames around the committee guide? Do you want to say we're going to have it, you know, ready to share by a certain time? I'm not pushing. I just wanted to help direct the conversation.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, and something that we're ready to, I think, get to those final pieces and just refining stages. So yeah, I think that is a good idea. I guess a question I have before choosing that timeline is how much more, from the standpoint maybe of your positions, do you think we need to add, as far as, is there any like category we're missing, any content that we want that guide to have that we need to specifically add, just so I can kind of gauge what other work needs done?
I think it looks pretty close to done.
Okay.
It shows the work of the committee, and that's all these guides are supposed to do, is to provide members with an overview. Not talk about every project that we might
Right.
be involved in. And I think you've done a great job putting that document together, and, you know, we just might need to tweak it just a little bit and then it'll be ready to go.
Okay. Perfect.
And I'm in no big hurry, you know, for this.
Yeah.
We'll take our time and make sure that, you know, everybody's had a look at it.
Yeah, how would you feel, Elena, if you wanted to, or if you wanted the Alliance to, we could send this out to the committee members for like a last look. Give it a little bit of time to provide feedback, any things that you think are missing, any things that you think you'd like to add, because we do have 2 months before we meet again. So that might give people on the committee plenty of time to take a kind of a last look at it.
Yeah. I will plan to go over and kind of add those pieces that Vic mentioned today into the sustainability category, and kind of take a last look of what I think could use some closing out or finalizing to make it kind of look well-rounded. And by the end of the week, is that okay if we send it out, Heidi?
Oh, hey, you're the committee chair. I'm just offering suggestions.
I think that I can get this out by the end of the week and then if we want to give the committee, however, you know, a week or so to look over on their end and provide any feedback. I think by the end of February, we should be able to feel like it's completed, even though we don't meet until the end of March. So, I mean, if we're looking at that timeline, we've got plenty of time. But I think that it could be something that we have completed, and then at least maybe are sharing with other committees if we wanted to make sure that the guides had a similar flow or outline or look or anything like that, then we can get those pieces together too.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll let you close it out if you want to, make a call for any updates or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has anything that they either want to share as a highlight of their programs right now going on, I'd be more than happy to hear anything like that. I know in Council Bluffs tonight we have a family engagement event with incoming sixth graders across the district coming to a music night. So the music teachers wanted to invite students to kind of get a feel for what middle school opportunities lie ahead. So they'll get to see some high school students leading some sessions and some teachers that they'll get to know. So that'll be a fun time tonight. So that's kind of on the short term excitement we have going on. So anyone else has something they'd like to share? It's a highlight to end on. All right. Well, I'm sure there are great things going on everywhere, things keeping you busy. I know we also had kind of a change of semester. You might be having some of that too. But yeah, I guess from here, I'll get some updates sent out that if you guys can take a look at when you have some free time, I'd really appreciate any feedback or just input or just a sign off, a thumbs up on it, just so that we know we have full committee support on this guide that we're finishing up. And then we'll see you come spring once we're out of winter, I guess. All right. Thanks everyone for making time to be here, and I'll see you in March.
That's great. Hi, Carissa. I see that you just joined. If you want to stay on for just a moment, we can share with you what we discussed today.
Yeah, make sure that you sign in on the chat too, Carissa, so that you get credit for attending the meeting.
Elena, would you be able to stay on for just a minute or two so we can bring Carissa up to speed?
Yep, no problem.
Thanks. All right, Carissa, we'll just give you kind of a rundown. I'm going to let Elena talk a little bit about, are you there? Can you hear us? I'm hoping that you are. Oh, yes, she put in the chat. She's here. Wonderful.
Okay.
So I'll just let Elena share a little bit about the committee guide and also our call for a committee co-chair, which I think we may have filled, but if you're interested.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Carissa. We had a super kind of short and sweet meeting today, and just really we're going over our committee guide that we kind of have been working on. So I'll just pull that up just quickly. We're going to send it out. So this is really just to catch you up on what we talked about today. Let me find the right one to share. Sorry, I have to look around my other computer to see my other screen. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the guide, which I'll zoom in on it because that seemed to be a little helpful earlier. Really, this is just our template of what our committee's guide looks like. We've talked through things like goals and our mission before, so those are something that I think we collectively already have settled on, but I'll just quickly run you through it. Again, I'm going to send this out after the meeting with a couple of updates we talked through, so you'll have easier access to look at it there, and then feel free to give any input to it. But between last meeting and now, what I really worked on was taking some of our brainstorm pieces down from each component of our committee and just kind of writing it into more of a easily readable format for the guide format. So Communication as its own topic, just kind of highlighting what areas of communication we will support sites on, which might be our individual site staffing needs between committees across the state, looking at communication with our partners, parents, and any external group that we might have a connection with, and then what's been successful in different sites as far as how to communicate. And if we ever have the opportunity to create any handout templates that are easily customizable, that's something we want to focus on too, just to make things easier when people are kind of new starting a cohort. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? So the second category was sustainability, which this so far was pretty short and sweet on just the focus of finding different avenues for low cost programming, free resources, and finding ways that we're going to be able to sustain our programs after grant funding is either reduced or possibly if we've already went through 2 cycles of the grant and kind of have to sustain programs without funding. So Vic brought up some great things I'm going to add to this, which will just be referencing those nutrition opportunities for snacks and meals, as well as DHS funding being an option to pursue after funding, and then kind of looking at ways to, or creating the guides on how to apply for those resources. So that was a great addition that we're going to add in there. And the last category is being our partnerships and what we can do to help programs and sites find partnerships and maintain those community partners. So looking at ways to provide those resources, on how to locate them, how to continually retain and show gratitude to keep those partners in use, and then looking at maybe possibly as a committee building some resources on how to, for the whole process of having community partners, again, looking at recruiting, maintaining, compensating, and then possibly leveraging that great relationship to hopefully elevate some opportunities for in-kind donations of their services or goods. Again, tying that back to our sustainability piece. So that is what we've went over today. Again, we will send this out and the whole committee will get to kind of weigh in on it and look at it a little easier on your own screen. And then from there, we'll talk about kind of finalizing it and looking at what it would look like to call it complete for the time being and just live, I guess, for how to recruit our next members. So
I do have a question. Is because we are revamping our vendors, and I just want to know if you guys like have a template of what's the criteria for being a vendor. Do they have a criteria, or is it just like
When the money
DMPS is,
leaves, they're gone. That's a vendor.
sorry, what was that?
When the money it leaves, when the contract's over, they're gone.
No, we
Yeah.
are going through and filtering out all of our vendors currently through DMPS.
Okay.
DMPS is having them apply and then they're picking through, but they have like this criteria of list of who would be a good vendor. And I just kind of want to know if there is that list around, or because
Well,
some partners weren't, or sorry, some vendors were not approved, and it's just kind of like,
Oh,
why?
well, you may call them all vendors in DMPS. We have a criteria that has a vendors is your fair weather friend. And then
Yep.
you have people that are partial partners because they do partner, but they don't have enough resources to do everything unless you give them some support. And then there's full partners that, they're going to provide you with people to come into your program, some resources, and, you don't have to provide them with any money.
Yeah, so
yeah,
we're calling vendors is what we have to pay for, and then partners are like the free programs that they come in, do their own resources and stuff like that. But just trying to find new partners, or the current partners, they're making them reapply every year now. So I just kind of want to know like what criterias there are for 21st century that like they have to meet to be a vendor or be a partner.
Well, that's set at the local level. We don't require that you have them reapply every year. But that's something that you're doing at the local level. Keep in mind, a lot of the stuff, you have to tweak it at the local level. But yeah, so we just want you to make those connections with folks. And you know, that's something we can certainly have a discussion on, is to find out what other people are doing.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It's a very fun process right now.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's kind of all I had.
In fact, Council Bluffs, Elena, you guys had a lot of partners. So, I mean, do you review that? Do you have them reapply every year?
We do not.
Okay.
We, for the partners we've had, we, you know, we update MOUs every year, but as far as like qualifying to be a partner, there's no formal process for that other than just evaluating if they were a good fit for our programs and if relationship was strong there, in the sense of the kids enjoyed them and they enjoyed the kids.
Yeah,
So
no,
outside of just, yeah, we don't have to, our district does not ask us to. That would be,
this is brand new. Like this
I
just
could imagine-
started in November.
yeah, that could be a challenging addition, just because then you're looking at different criteria to make sure you're aligning under that umbrella, which is just more obstacles to look through. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any experience with juggling
Well,
that piece.
another person I would contact would be Billy Stone and Oak Ridge, because they've got a lot of partners and they're right there in Des Moines.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're using a similar criteria, but you know, they were getting new partners during the pandemic, which was, you know, wow.
Yeah, thank you, Vic, for saying that. Clarissa, people just come to us, our partners, and they want to do things with Oak Ridge. And maybe it's
Hey,
because
friends, we will still
of,
be inside. There's just snow everywhere that we really don't have a big area.
am I in trouble? People really come to us with things they'd like to do for our community. I'm kind of surprised that that your folks have to apply every year. And in my head, I'm just trying to wonder, why did that happen? Why now do they have to apply every year for your program?
that's above me.
Oh, okay.
They just kind of started that because I know like some vendors were, one cost was at this school, but a different cost. So I get like that. But we've had over 100 vendors and now we have like 16.
Wow.
I know. So that's why I didn't know. They said that they're going through this criteria of qualifications. So that's why I didn't know if there was something that then we could be like, you know, this is why you weren't a vendor, or like now looking for new potential vendors. Like, well, you don't meet these criteria. That's why I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
But this
So,
could be something just Des Moines Public Schools is doing. So
Oh,
Heidi,
oh,
can you speak to the history of, you know, what Des Moines did?
Yeah, sure.
were-
And Chris, I'm happy to talk to you offline too. It sounds like you got a new, more rigid process for working with people. But I mean, Carissa and I worked together on this for many years, creating that process that we had for bringing on, whether they were a full partner, a partial partner, or just a paid vendor. And it sounds like maybe there's some process changes happening,
yeah,
which there can be growing pains for sure. But you know, I'm very happy to talk it through with you, if you know, if Linda wants to, if we want to meet together, maybe have some ideas or a sharing session, we can do that.
okay.
Well, and keep in mind that this grant requires partnerships. However, you know, you can tweak it at the local level, but you don't want to make it so restrictive that all of a sudden our largest school district has fewer partners than some of our rural school districts. You know, and who's gonna, you know, feel that loss? The kids, because they're not gonna have as many activities. And then down the line, that's going to make your your progress with the grant decline. So there's a balance.
Yep.
And that's something I can certainly talk with Linda and Jason.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no, that it's not, I won't mention you, but you know, that's a concern of mine that, you know, you don't have it too restrictive, because keep in mind, you know, these are people giving of their time, of funds and resources. And, you know, schools have never been very good at bringing in the community. And that needs to change. And this grant was one of the federal government's ways of saying, yeah, let's put this out there and see if we can't get them to, you know, work better with their communities. In fact, the very name, community learning centers. Somebody was saying something.
Sorry, my
No,
walkie
I think it's
talkie.
background noise.
Oh,
My
okay.
walkie.
No, this is good conversation, Carissa. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
I don't mind meeting after with Heidi or anything like that.
All right, well, I guess we'll just go into another round of closing out of this call. And then again, my pieces are the same. Look for a follow-up email about the committee guide. And then other pieces, I think, yeah, maybe chatting with Heidi will help you individually. So next call's in March. So I'll see you guys in a couple months.
Sounds
you.
great. Thank you, Elena.